I've always been fond of the LEGO Star Wars series. They were some of the first games that I ever played as a kid, and I remember having a lot of fun with them. The games in this series were also how I first experienced the Star Wars prequel story. With the coming release of the newest game in the series, LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens, I thought it'd be a fun idea to do a retrospective on all the games in the series. So, let's not waste any more time and look at the original LEGO Star Wars. My siblings and I never actually bought the original game. Instead, we got it from our cousin, and I played it a bunch. The game was simple and easy to follow along with, so it was perfect for me as I was only around 6 years old at the time. I also remember having a lot of fun playing it with my brothers and sisters too. I didn't own it for a while as my brother and I got the complete saga for the Wii, so there seemed to be no point in keeping the original game any longer. But just for this retrospective, I went out to get another copy. All of those experiences I was talking about were from 8 years ago. So now, going back to the game, is it actually as good as I remember it being? Well, no better place to start than at the beginning. The game starts with that classic Star Wars theme, and before you know it, you've made your own file. I always remember the game starting with those two Jedi guys. I knew who Obi-Wan was at the time, but I had no idea who Qui-Gon Jinn was. I always thought he seemed weird, first from his name, and second, he had really long hair for a guy, which for some reason I thought was strange as a kid. Also, one of the first things you'll notice when you start up the game is the hub world. Its purpose is to get you from level to level and to buy characters and upgrades. One thing I liked to do when I was younger was to go and start up a big fight with all the other characters. I guess I was just violent back then or something. Moving on to the actual game though. One thing I loved about it as a kid, and what I still like about it now, are the cutscenes. They would always start and end each level, and they're really entertaining to watch. Some of them would even include a bit of humor. Now to the gameplay itself. The gameplay obviously centers around the Star Wars story. Each episode is divided up into 5 to 6 chapters. Chapters are these games' levels. They focus on a certain part of the Star Wars series. Each chapter always starts out with the classic scrolling text. It gives you information on the story and what will be happening in the level you are playing. But did anybody ever read these? I sure didn't. In fact, I would always try and skip them as soon as I could. The gameplay is like a bunch of different types of genres put together. There are puzzle elements, fighting elements, platforming elements, and a basic adventure feel throughout the entire game. The puzzles in this game are not that difficult. It mostly requires moving boxes in a certain way, standing on switches, finding ways to get from one section in the level to another, etc. It's all pretty simple stuff. However, I am much older than when I first played the game, and the target audience is kids. The fighting in this game is nothing clever, it's just a hack and slash, and none of the enemies are too difficult to take down. I do remember having fun with it as a kid though, and I still think the combat is a fun part of the game, even though there isn't much to it. The main element to this game, however, is the collectible searching. Throughout every level, one of the main incentives is to collect enough studs and find all the mini-kits. Studs, which are the currency in this game, are something that you'll see everywhere. They can be found by destroying certain objects, toying with things by using the Force, or they can just be right on the ground, waiting to be picked up. I always found it so satisfying to interact with some object and in turn get hundreds of studs. If you're able to collect enough of these studs in a level, then you'll get a piece of the Super Kit. There are 17 pieces in total, one for each level. It did surprise me a bit that there were only 17 levels in the game. That seemed kinda short. However, the levels are a good length, and the replay value will definitely extend your time with the game. Mini-kits are like the studs, as they are scattered throughout the level. However, there are only 10 of them in each level. They also aren't out in the open either. Mini-kits are cleverly hidden, and are found either by stumbling upon their hiding spot, or by accomplishing some sort of special puzzle. By collecting all of the mini-kits in a level, you'll be able to build something based on the level you just completed. The collectible searching is one of the best parts of the game, and it still is today. It was always rewarding to find that mini-kit you could never find before, or collect thousands of studs at once. This is also where most of the replay value of the game comes from, which is a great segue into this next paragraph. Whenever you completed a level, you could play it again in free play mode. In free play mode, you would do the exact same level, but you would have a wide selection of characters to use. You would unlock these characters by playing through the story mode and buying them at the hub world. As you played the game, you would learn that there are 6 basic types of characters. The Jedi, which can use a lightsaber for combat and can also use the Force. Shooters, which use a gun as their main source of combat. Droids, which can unlock certain doors for you. High jumpers, which are characters that can, well, jump higher than other people. And little people. I know, the name sounds stupid, but it's all I could come up with. And they are able to go through tunnels to get from one place to another. When you do free play mode, you will get at least one of these characters in your arsenal. Why is this important? Well, you know those mini-kits I was talking about? Many of them cannot be obtained with the characters you are given in the main mode. This is where all the replay value comes from. If you want to be able to collect all the mini-kits in a level, you'll have to go through the level twice. Once in the story mode, and once in free play mode. I never had a problem with this when I played the game. In fact, I think it's a lot of fun. While you may have to go through the same level again, using different characters will allow you to discover secrets you never knew were there. All these elements, the puzzles, the combat, the collectible searching, would not only lay the groundwork for future LEGO Star Wars games, but it would also shape the future LEGO games to come. Graphically, I think the game still holds up well today. It did a very good job of bringing the Star Wars universe into a LEGO world. The frame rate was almost always smooth, except when something crazy was happening on screen. The music and sound effects are also good. As you can probably tell, the game uses a lot of music from the movies, and it sounds great. So, looking back at it now, what do I think? Well, I enjoyed it as a kid, and I still enjoy it now. To a lesser extent, it's just a bit too simple for my taste, and there's nothing wrong with that. The target audience was for kids, and you could tell it was for kids. But do I still recommend the game? Of course I do. I think anybody can still find some kind of enjoyment out of it. The original LEGO Star Wars will always be a fond memory of mine.